You know that red liquid that runs through all of our veins? Well, it turns out it's so much more than just, well, red liquid. Today, we're going to put it under the microscope and really deconstruct what's inside every single drop.
We've all been there, right? You get a tiny little paper cut and it feels like it just bleeds and bleeds. But have you ever really stopped to think about what's actually in that little drop of blood? It's not just some red fluid. It's literally a microscopic emergency response team delivering nutrients and fighting off infection right at that spot.
So, to really understand why blood is so vital, we first have to see what it's actually made of. Turns out, it's a total powerhouse fluid with some critical jobs happening all at once. Okay, think of it this way. Your blood is a delivery service for all the good stuff, like nutrients. It's a garbage disposal for all the waste. It's a chemical balancer for your body's pH. And it's your first line of defense against any invaders. And it's doing all of this all the time without you ever having to think about it. It's pretty amazing. So, how in the world do we actually see all these individual parts? I mean, you can't just peer into a drop of blood and see everything. You have to separate it. And that, well, that requires a little bit of lab magic and a whole lot of speed. It all happens in a machine called a centrifuge. And honestly, the best way to picture it is like a washing machine on a super, super fast spin cycle. A vial of blood gets spun around so quickly that all the different components start to separate by their weight. The heaviest bits sink right to the bottom, the lightest stuff floats to the top, and just like that, 3 totally distinct layers appear. And this is what you get. Think of this chart as our roadmap for today. At the very top, making up a whopping 55% of our blood, is plasma. Down at the bottom, we've got the red blood cells, taking up about 45%. And then, squeezed right in the middle, is this tiny, almost invisible layer called the buffy coat, which is less than 1%. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. All right, first up, the foundation. We're starting with that heaviest layer that sinks to the bottom. It makes up nearly half of our blood's volume. I'm talking about the red blood cells, our oxygen crew. Now, their official name is erythrocytes, but you can just think of them as the body's ultimate delivery drivers. Their mission is totally nonstop. They pick up a payload of oxygen in the lungs, drop it off at every single tissue in your body, and then they haul away the waste product, carbon dioxide, for disposal. And what's wild is that these cells are perfectly engineered for this exact mission. Their shape, this weird little biconcave disc, makes them super flexible, so they can squeeze through the tiniest blood vessels. It also increases their surface area for swapping gases more efficiently. They don't even have a nucleus, and that's on purpose, because it leaves way more room for the protein that carries oxygen, hemoglobin. The only downside is they only live for about 120 days, so our bone marrow is constantly just churning out new ones. Remember that 45% number we just talked about? Well, in a medical setting, that's known as your hematocrit. It's a really crucial number that tells doctors exactly how much of your blood's volume is packed with these essential oxygen-carrying red cells. And getting the balance right here is key. I mean, if your hematocrit is too low, it might be a sign that your body isn't making enough red blood cells, or maybe something is destroying them too quickly. On the flip side, if it's too high, it could be a sign of something simple like dehydration or certain diseases causing an overproduction. It's a really vital indicator of your overall health. Okay, moving up from the red cells, we find that really thin, pale middle layer. It may be less than 1% of your total blood volume, but you do not want to underestimate it. This is your personal protection and repair crew, the buffy coat. The buffy coat has 2 key players. First up, you've got platelets. These aren't even full cells. They're more like little fragments that rush to the site of an injury, clump all together to form a plug, and stop you from bleeding. Right alongside them are the leukocytes. You probably know them as white blood cells. These are the soldiers of your immune system. And this isn't just one big army, it's more like a collection of special forces. Neutrophils are the most common, and they act as the first responders to any infection. Then you have lymphocytes. They're like the intelligence officers, creating antibodies and giving your immune system its memory. You also have monocytes that literally gobble up pathogens, and a few others that fight off parasites and handle allergic reactions. It's a truly dynamic defense force. And now we've arrived at the top layer, the final and biggest component of our blood. This yellowish liquid is called plasma, and you can think of it as the superhighway that everything else travels on. Now, this is the part that might be a little staggering. Plasma is about 90% water. That's it, just water. This simple watery base is what makes blood a fluid in the first place, allowing it to flow and carry all its vital passengers wherever they need to go. But it's not just water. That other 10% is absolutely packed with vital proteins. Albumin is the most common one. Its main job is to keep water from leaking out of your blood vessels, and it also acts as a taxi for things like hormones. Then you have globulins, which include the antibodies your immune system makes, and fibrinogen is a crucial protein that works with those platelets we mentioned to form stable blood clots. Okay, here's a quick but pretty important distinction you might hear in a medical context. Serum is what you get when you take plasma and you remove all the clotting factors, like fibrinogen. So, what's the key difference? Plasma can clot, serum cannot. Simple as that. And finally, dissolved in all that plasma water are also crucial electrolytes like sodium and potassium. These guys are absolutely essential for maintaining the body's delicate pH balance and regulating fluids, making sure everything inside you runs smoothly. You know, this quote really brings us back to that central idea. The white blood cells, the leukocytes, they're a mobile army, and they're using the blood as a highway system to get wherever they're needed. The cells are the soldiers for sure, but the plasma is that indispensable transport system that makes it all possible. So let's bring it all back together one more time. We have our highway system, the plasma, making up 55%. We've got our oxygen crew, the red blood cells, at 45%, and we have our defenders, the buffy coat, making up that tiny but absolutely vital fraction. 3 layers, one incredible life-sustaining fluid. So the next time you see a drop of blood, maybe you'll see it a little differently. Not as just some simple red liquid, but as this bustling, living river just teeming with specialized workers on a million different missions. It really makes you wonder, what other hidden marvels are at work inside you right this second?